Okay, so tonight I'm going to make a ramen dish with some pre-made miso ginger broth, which I've never tried from Trader Joe's. I'm going to air fry some tofu to give some texture and then put that in. My mom gave me some shiitake mushrooms, which I need to use. And I grabbed a package of thin Shanghai style plain noodle. It was only $2.99, like very cheap, even if it's crappy. $3, $3. And I got some green onions to throw in there and some Shanghai cabbage, which is, we call bok choy, but it's not. I personally prefer Shanghai cabbage. So what I'm going to do now, before my workout, is cranberry tea with collagen, is going to mise en place, and that way I'm not in a rush after my workout to get things ready. So hopefully this should be pretty simple. I'm just going to heat up the ginger broth, maybe throw in a little bit of chicken stock if it's not enough, and toss everything else in there. Just basically a simple noodle dish. And I've been experimenting with knife sharpening, and so this is also a way to play with this. So I'm going to start cutting stuff up and time lapse it. Okay, so here I am cutting up the Shanghai cabbage, or I'll probably refer to it as baby bok choy, which it's not, but anyway. These tend to get kind of dirty. Any kind of cabbage and bok choy tend to have a bit of dirt at the bottom of the base, so you gotta kind of soak it in. Get the dirt out, and in order to speed up the cooking, I cut the Shanghai cabbage into halves, the larger stalks, and here I'm cutting up the shiitake mushrooms. Same thing. They tend to hold a lot of dirt, so I'll mention it later on in the voiceover when I come back on the video. But you gotta soak it to get the water out. And just practicing my knife skills, cutting up the spring onions. Yeah, this time lapse actually is turning out pretty good, the way it self pans. So okay, something I haven't done in a while is actually use bouillon cubes. Yeah, so what I'm doing right now is pressing the water out of the tofu so it gets dry, so it'll toast or air fry a little bit better, easier. I'm soaking the shiitakes to get the dirt out, and I can just hear my mom say, "Will, make sure you jum," and that means soak in Cantonese. Jum the shiitake. And so what I'm going to do is, I'll actually be a good boy here and measure. I'm going to put 1 cube per 8 ounces, so I'll do 16 ounces. I don't know. We'll see. Ugh, why do they make this stuff so hard to open? All these knives, and 10 million knives, literally, and I can't open this damn thing. This is actually the second container recently that has these sealed for freshness lids that have just been freaking impossible to open. It's actually a new knife, a Xylus serrated pruning knife, paring knife, paring knife. Things you don't really want, but it was only $4, so I couldn't pass it up. So what I'm going to do is let this sit. I'll do 16 ounces. We got a ton of shiitake mushrooms. They were going to go bad if I don't cook them anyway, and I have quite a bit of Shanghai cabbage, so those two require a lot of water or liquid, and so I'm just going to have 16 ounces of this, 64 ounces total, 32 ounces of the miso ginger broth pre-made, and come on, for God's sakes, and 16 ounces of this bouillon. And stir it up in a minute. Got some avocado I'm going to toss in there. So it's basically just a smorgasbord of stuff that we have laying around, which is, quite frankly, the best way of doing this, right? I had the spring onions, green onions, whatever you want to call them. Had the shiitakes. Oh, these things are really handy. Salad spinners. I have a massive OXO one, but Betsy doesn't like it for some reason. Likes this little one, which is fine for the both of us now since we're empty nesters, and squeezes out a bit of water. And just let these air dry, and I'm gonna let the stuff sit and come back after my workout and start cooking. Shouldn't be too hard after that. Yeah. All right. I'll be back. Okay, so pardon the noise. The air fryer is preheating. What I'm gonna do is sprinkle cornstarch on top of this to try to get a little extra texture. Even though when you toss it into the tofu, it kind of gets lost, but we'll try it. And what I finally learned was to use a sifter or strainer, a fine mesh strainer, to sift the cornstarch onto the tofu. And one thing I didn't mention was tofu I prefer to actually freeze tofu beforehand when I try to brown it or air fry it, because it dramatically changes the texture of the tofu, and it actually makes it fry and dry up a lot easier after it's been frozen and thawed. So, the reason why I'm telling you this is this stuff is fresh. I got it from the store, I guess this time last week maybe, and didn't froze the rest. I bought like 5 to get the discount, but didn't freeze this pack. So this will be an experiment, and I will cook this for about 12 minutes. And while I do that, I'll go ahead and start the broth and the soup, and it'll all be ready at the same time. How about that? I'll do the rest in time lapse.
So part of my cooking is trying to stay on top of the cleaning up, because that's the worst part, right? So I try to clean as I go along and put stuff away, and honestly minimize the amount of stuff I use. And here, just getting my workspace clean and ready for the next steps. Working on the stock here, and I'm actually sauteing the mushrooms and seasoning them. The shiitakes, they absorb a tremendous amount of oil, which I learned, and they just absorb fluid very, very, very easily. So you got to use the oil sparingly, because before you know it, you're just doused a whole bunch. And so sesame oil I use a lot, to give it a flavor, and the shiitakes just soak that up like a mushroom. I'm using a unitasker here. People like to give me crap about using an avocado cutter, but they're super, super handy, and it just makes the slices uniform, and it's quite easy. And here I am trying to scrape the tofu out of the tray. So I'm testing out a new Breville Smart Oven air fryer. Not the Pro, but the air fryer. And it's just trial and error. I wish I kind of didn't use the air fryer basket, because the tofu wanted to stick to it, and it would have made it hard to flip, which I did not flip. So one side got nice and toasted, and the other side was a little bit soggy, or soft, I should say. This is the broth almost done. I added a little bit of extra soy sauce on it to give it a little bit more sodium, and I think the mixture was perfect. The broth was great. This is prepping the bowl with cut up the tofu into slices with avocado on top. And I think I got the ratio of broth to stuff ingredients right. This is the finished product. It's quite delicious. My nose couldn't stop running, and I made it spicy enough. Thanks for watching.